Can we all just take a deep breath together? Literally inhale and exhale. Psalm 23 says this. We're going to be in this chapter all morning long. So you can go and get there now. I'll read it for us. The Lord is my shepherd. I lack nothing. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside quiet waters. He refreshes my soul. He guides me along the right paths for his name's sake. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup overflows. Surely your goodness and love will follow me all of the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Last November, I spent a day in the woods all by myself with one goal. It was to find rest, and kind of while I was doing that, I had a secondary goal, which was to read an entire book cover to cover. And I chose the book, and it's this book. It's called The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry, and it's by John Mark Comer. And I want you to know I accomplished this goal. I spent a full day, and I crushed a book cover to cover all the way in one day. I know, me. I didn't read it, though. I listened to it on audio, so call me a cheater, but I'm a tactile auditory learner. I don't know. But I remember this moment where I was literally laying in the ground on a green pasture. It was green vegetation, and I was by still waters. And none of that was really clocking to me at the time until into the book, I came across this Psalm 23, which I just read. And so today, as we're talking, because this was one of the most restful experiences of my life, to the point where I still remember it today, almost a year later. And I feel this conviction preparing for this morning that if I'm going to talk about rest, I can't not talk about this book. I can't not talk about this experience that has changed really my whole outlook on life since then. It was like a moment that I haven't been the same since. And so I wanted to share it with you in hopes that God might do something similar in your heart. And I'm gonna do my best this morning. So like I said, Psalm 23 will be there. I hope you're there. And you can just kind of follow along, underline, highlight, take notes. This is a great morning for taking notes because I just want to go through this psalm verse by verse, word by word, and then that's it. I don't do this very often, but today's that day. We're just going to get into scripture and then we're going to be done for the day. So I'm just going to tell you that's where we're going. Psalm 23 was written by David, and David was a shepherd of literal sheep whenever he was a teen, during his teen years. So just like you guys, imagine yourself out there indefinitely in the wilderness, fighting off predators and guiding and shepherding these vulnerable animals for the livelihood of your family and everything. And that was David. And David was a shepherd of sheep, but he eventually became a shepherd of God's people, the nation of Israel. God's chosen people. He became the king of Israel. And you've probably heard God referred to as King of Kings, or Jesus as Lord of Lords, right? And David, as a shepherd, he looks at God. He's like, well, this is my life. This is my experience. This is what I know. I'm a shepherd leading these sheep, but God, you are shepherding me. You are the shepherd of shepherds. That's why he starts this psalm off with, the Lord is my shepherd. And I'm going to stop us right here and I want to take it slow. Because we've just encountered the most important word in the entire psalm, all 6 verses. And the word is my. You say, well, why is this the most important word in the entire psalm? Well, it's because of this. You can understand that God is a shepherd all day long. You could even understand that the Lord is the shepherd all day long. That he is the only one capable of holding the entire universe together, that he is guiding, leading, orchestrating, and directing the entire thing. You can acknowledge that. But none of that really matters until I understand that he is my shepherd too. He's not a shepherd, he's not the shepherd, he's my shepherd. It personalizes it. that he's not just holding the world together, he's holding my world together too. He cares about me. He sees me. He would leave 99 to come after me in my time of need. And this is why he follows it up with the next phrase in the passage where he says, I lack nothing. Some translations say, I shall not want. So I don't know what translation you're in. But no matter what, it carries the same meaning. And it's not that you have everything that you desire. You're saying like, we're talking about I lack nothing. Like, I don't got the Birkin bag. I don't know what you want, but it's like, that's not what it's saying. It's not saying that you have everything you desire. It's saying that you have everything that you need. And you might have a lot and you might have a little. But are you content with what you have? You even see the Apostle Paul, he's like, I know what it's like to have a lot. I know what it's like to have little. This was a dude who had been shipwrecked, who had been beaten, who had been robbed, who had been hungry. He's also not been all of those things. He's been extremely successful, extremely wealthy and all that stuff. And he's like, in every situation, I've learned how to be content. It's like, no matter what I've got, I have everything I need. You're like, well, Ren, I don't understand why I don't have more. I don't understand why I might have less at certain times. I don't understand why my life looks like hills and valleys, ups and downs, highs and lows. Listen, it's not your job to understand. The sheep can't understand the shepherd. They're a different species, right? It's not our job as sheep to understand. It's our job as sheep to follow the shepherd. Right? You can waste your whole life trying to understand the shepherd and miss out on the green pastures and the still waters and the refreshment for your soul that he's trying to lead you into because you're too busy just trying to understand him and you miss it. Understanding him could be exhausting and it's futile because you can't do it. And that's exactly what David emphasizes next, right? He says, you make me, and the word make is kind of debatable because sometimes, like, you're not doing it by choice. Like, God will make you slow down. I say sometimes I'll get sick and it's not because, like, I don't know, man, it's like a spiritual thing. God's either like, look, buddy, you're going to slow down or I'm going to make you slow down by, like, making you sick. And he'll do it sometimes, I swear. So he says, he makes me lie down in green pastures, but it's for restful purposes. You see what I'm saying? It's like, but you're right, though. He leads me beside quiet waters. He refreshes my soul. See, when I'm talking about rest in this series, I'm not talking about sleep, which sleep is good. Like, get sleep. Get enough sleep. Please do. Like, I'm not saying it's a bad thing. Sleep is important. But I'm talking about a deeper rest for your soul, and that's what David's talking about here, too. Some of us try to rest or relax in some ways, like, binging your favorite TV show or something. You're like, I'm just going to veg out. I'm just going to doom scroll social media. And I just want to relax. I just want to decompress. I'm just going to game for like 8 hours straight. I'm just going to take a really long nap and just close the blinds in my room and just crawl into this dark cave and just like, no one talk to me for a day or 6. And I wonder, are those things rest or are they retreat for you? Because I would bet that for a lot of us, they're almost like coping mechanisms to a deeper underlying issue that we're trying to escape from and we're trying to satisfy, we're trying to fix, but it's not really getting at the root of the problem, which is that we need this soul rest that can only come from fellowship with the Father. And we're trying to get it in fellowship with TikTok. And it's just not going to happen. It won't. No matter how much you do it, it just can't. Because you're walking away from the shepherd, and he's trying to, it's exhausting, right? I wonder how restful it would be if we just succumb to what God's calling us to do. A lot of us, we know that moment. We know that feeling where it's like, am I going to do it my way or God's way? And you're like, my way. And you pay for it later, man. There's a quote from the book that stuck out to me. This is in the book I mentioned earlier, where he says, what if God touched my life as frequently as my iPhone touches my thumbs? I don't know, man. It just convicted me. It hit me. All right, I'm looking at the clock. We gotta blitz through the rest of this, or we're never gonna finish. Okay, he guides me along the right paths for his name's sake. Is there a typo in that? Yeah, ignore that. As I call it out. He guides me along the right paths for his name's sake. Listen, it's not for my glory. That's not so people will be like, oh wow, look at that awesome sheep. No, it's about so people will be like, whoa, look at that awesome shepherd. I want everyone to not see me, but see Christ in me, see God through me. Like, don't acknowledge me and my accomplishments. Acknowledge the God who built me and who made me to do literally anything. I would be nothing. I wouldn't even exist if it weren't for him. So don't give me any credit. All the credit goes to the shepherd. That's why I live. That's my purpose. He continues, even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. You are with me. A lot of us have probably heard this passage before. There's a couple things I want to point out about this section. Number one, we are not walking in the valley. Notice a little grammatical wink here. We are going through it. God's not going to keep us in the valley. He's taking us through the valley to the other side. There is another side. There is a light at the tunnel, other end of the tunnel, and it's not a train. Number two, it's not the valley of death. What's it say? We're going through the valley of the shadow of death. Jesus defeated death. Death no longer reigns. Even though our physical bodies will die, that is not the end. If that's the worst thing that can happen to us, okay, then there it is, because we're going to continue living for eternity. I remember being afraid of shadows as a kid. My daughters are 6 and 7 years old right now, and they are afraid of shadows. Literally last night, it was so timely that they were like, Dad, there's a spider on my ceiling and I can't go to sleep. She was freaking out. I'm like, no, that's a shadow. And not even a shadow of a spider, right? Because sometimes shadows can represent something that is really there. But other times they're not. They're a little deceptive. But the fact of a shadow still kind of remains, right? Like the shadow of a dog can't bite us. The shadow of a sword can't hurt us. Just like the shadow of death can't ultimately destroy us. Death doesn't keep us down. Death doesn't get to win. Jesus, he showed us that when he defeated it once and for all. And he said, like, you put your faith in me and you will live on for eternity, forever too. Right? So therefore, I will fear no evil. He is with us. It's why Jesus says this in Matthew chapter 11. When Jesus steps on the scene, this is hundreds and hundreds of years later after David wrote, but he says, come to me all who are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. He's talking about that rest that David wrote about, who, by the way, is in the bloodline and the lineage of Jesus. Pretty cool. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and lowly in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. Not sleep, not a good nap, not avoiding the problem. Rest for your soul. My yoke is easy, my burden is light. Bro, if you're carrying a heavy burden, you're probably not walking with Jesus. David finishes the psalm with a few statements here. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. Shepherds carried a staff or a rod to guide and direct the sheep, and sometimes pull them in closer to the shepherd, sometimes to pull them away from danger or potential harm. The sheep's just getting yanked by the neck. It's like, why are you doing that to me? That hurts. Doesn't understand. There's a bear right there, dude. I just saved your life. It hurts. You're mad at me. You prepare a table for me in the presence of my enemies. I know that life can feel like you're surrounded with chaos, that there's enemies everywhere lurking all the time, just like in a metaphorical sense. Some of us really have enemies, like actual ones. What does this mean? Well, whenever there's chaos and there's uncertainty surrounding us, coming in from all directions, right? The comfort of the shepherd can make it as though we're able to sit down and just eat a meal right there in the middle of it without any fear. That'd be pretty awesome, right? He says, you anoint my head with oil, my cup overflows. Shepherds would put oil on a sheep's head. It was a few meanings behind this. It's called anointing, guests. If there was someone visiting the house at the time, it was a different cultural thing, different time, right? They would anoint their head with oil if it was an honored guest coming into the house as a way of showing honor. You're thinking, if someone did that to me, I'd be freaking mad. But, different, like I said. But with the sheep, in the context of the shepherd, check this out. They kind of stanky, right? Okay. There would be flies all up in the flock. Putting oil on the head of the sheep would keep the flies away from getting into their eyes, crawling up their nose, making them sick, giving them disease. And once the flies were gone, the attitude of not just the sheep, but the whole flock would change. The whole climate and the temperature of the family would change because of this protective covering that the shepherd put on the sheep. Pretty cool. Once the flies are gone, the family changes, and it's hard to rest when you're covered in flies, right? David's cup was just a metaphor for overall joy in life. Like if your cup, I don't know where your cup is at right now, today. Like if a full cup is like, I'm living in full joy, optimal joy, not happiness, joy all the time, optimal soul rest, peak life, peak spiritual fellowship with God all the time, just living in it. That's a full cup. Where are you at? Take some inventory of your cup. David, his was overflowing. That's a goal. So he says, surely your goodness, he just reminds himself, us, of this fact, your goodness and love will follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. This is the goal, to dwell in the house of the Lord forever. And what I like about this is your goodness will follow me. Your love will follow me. God is pursuing you. He's following. Isn't it interesting to think that he's following you? And I wonder, the immediate question that pops in my mind is, am I following him the same? Am I chasing after him just as hard as he's chasing after me? Because to find the true rest for your soul that nourishes you in this life and for eternity on into the next, that's the goal. To live there, to live this life of an overflowing cup, to live this life of soul rest. The kind of stuff that can only come from the good shepherd, that can't come from any counterfeit that the world tries to throw at you, no matter how convincing or compelling it might be. I pray that you find that and that you experience it and that it changes your life.